It was 4:47 a.m. local time in the South China Sea, and the darkness above the Paracel Islands was absolute. No moon. Cloud cover at 11,000 feet. A perfect night to feel invisible. If you happen to be operating a People's Liberation Army Navy carrier strike group and genuinely believed that nobody was watching, they were wrong. They had been wrong for the past 72 hours, and they didn't know it yet. The Shandong, China's second aircraft carrier and its first domestically built flat top, was operating approximately 210 nautical miles southeast of Hainan Island. She was flanked by two Type 055 guided missile destroyers, the most advanced surface combatants China had ever put to sea, along with three Type 052D destroyers, two Type 054A frigates, and a single Type 901 fast combat support ship to keep the group fueled and armed. On paper, it looked formidable. On paper, it looked like China had finally arrived as a genuine blue water naval power. The plan officers aboard those ships believed that. Their political officers believed that. Beijing believed that very much indeed. The Shandong's flight deck held 24 J-15 carrier-based fighters, a derivative of the Russian Su-33, which was itself a derivative of the Soviet-era Su-27. The lineage mattered because it told you everything about the gap between appearance and reality. The J-15 was big, loud, and visually impressive. It was also chronically underpowered, plagued by engine reliability issues that had been an open secret in Western intelligence circles for years, and incapable of carrying a full weapons and fuel load simultaneously due to the ski jump ramp launch system the Shandong still relied upon. No electromagnetic catapults, no ability to launch fully loaded airborne early warning aircraft. The Shandong's organic air picture, the bubble of radar awareness every carrier group depends on for survival, extended roughly 250 nautical miles at best. That number was generous. Compare that to what was sitting 340 nautical miles to the southeast, running dark and silent at 15 knots. The USS Carl Vinson, CVN-70, a Nimitz-class nuclear-powered supercarrier displacing over 100,000 tons at full load, had been on station in the Philippine Sea for 11 days. Her strike group, Carrier Strike Group 1, included the Ticonderoga-class cruiser USS Lake Champlain with her 122 vertical launch system cells loaded with a layered mix of SM-2 Block 3, B-standard missiles, SM-6 dual-role interceptors, and Tomahawk land attack cruise missiles. Two Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, USS Stockdale and USS William P. Lawrence, each carrying 96 VLS cells of their own, and two nuclear-powered fast-attack submarines running silent at undisclosed positions within the group's defensive perimeter. An E-2D Advanced Hawkeye airborne early warning aircraft, the fourth-generation version with the AN/APY-9 radar, had been in the air since 2:15 a.m., orbiting at 25,000 feet, its rotating radar dome scanning a volume of airspace roughly the size of the entire eastern seaboard of the United States. Not a sparrow fell in the South China Sea that morning without that radar knowing about it. The Shandong group had begun pushing south at 11 p.m. the previous evening. The movement was deliberate, aggressive, designed to be noticed, at least by the civilian world. Beijing had spent the past 3 weeks publicly denouncing what it called provocative American naval operations within what China unilaterally claimed as its exclusive maritime zone. A U.S. Navy Freedom of Navigation operation conducted 12 nautical miles from Fiery Cross Reef 7 days earlier had produced a predictable wave of state media outrage. The Shandong's southward push was the response, a show of force, a signal to domestic audiences and regional neighbors that China's Navy was ready, capable, and unafraid. The E-2D Hawkeye crew had been tracking the Shandong group's movement since 11:23 p.m. The AN/APY-9 radar had painted every ship in the formation with crystal clarity from a range of over 300 nautical miles. The data, ship classification, heading, speed, electronic emissions signature, flowed instantly through Link 16 to the Combat Information Center aboard the Carl Vinson, where the tactical action officer was watching the picture develop on a display that made the best Chinese equivalent look like a 1990s video game. The TAO noted the Shandong group's course and speed, cross-referenced it with projected intercept geometry, and said, with complete composure, that at current rates of advance, the Chinese formation would be within 180 nautical miles of the carrier strike group by approximately 6:30 a.m. He flagged it. He updated the captain. Then he poured himself a second cup of coffee, because this was not an emergency. This was Tuesday. At 5:12 a.m., the Shandong launched its first fixed-wing aircraft. 4 J-15S off the ski jump, lumbering into the humid tropical air with partial fuel loads and reduced weapons payloads, the unavoidable physics of ski jump carrier aviation making every sortie a compromise before it even began. The aircraft formed up and headed south. Their mission, as best as U.S. intelligence could determine from their emission signatures and flight profiles, was a wide-area maritime patrol combined with a visible demonstration of Chinese carrier aviation capability. The J-15S carried their PL-15 beyond visual range air-to-air missiles and YJ-12 anti-ship cruise missiles on wing pylons. The loadout was real. The intent was aggressive. What the planned pilots did not know, could not know with the sensors available to them, was that 2 A-18F Super Hornets from VFA-2, the bounty hunters, had been airborne since 4 a.m., running in emissions control mode, their radars off, navigating entirely on data fed from the E-2D Hawkeye through encrypted Link 16 data links. The Super Hornets sat in a holding pattern 95 nautical miles south of the Shandong's position, invisible to Chinese radar, watching the J-15S climb out. The bounty hunters' WSOs had a complete picture of every aircraft, every ship, every electronic emission in a 400 nautical mile radius. The J-15 pilots were flying blind by comparison. Let's talk about that contrast for a moment, because it is the entire story. The J-15's primary radar is the Type 1475, an active electronically scanned array derived from the Russian Zhuk AE with Chinese modifications. Maximum detection range against a fighter-sized target, approximately 135 kilometers in ideal conditions, against a stealthy or low observable target with radar-absorbing materials. That number collapses dramatically. The J-15 also lacks a helmet-mounted cueing system, comparable to the Joint Helmet-Mounted Cueing System, carried by every U.S. Navy aviator, meaning its pilots cannot cue missiles to targets outside their direct forward field of view, a massive tactical disadvantage in a within visual range engagement. The PL-15 missile is genuinely capable. Western analysts respect it as a credible long-range air-to-air threat. But its effectiveness depends entirely on the quality of targeting data fed to it before launch, and that data comes from a radar system that the E-2D and the Super Hornets already know how to exploit. The F/A-18F Super Hornet, by contrast, operates within a kill chain that would be almost incomprehensible to a Chinese pilot of 20 years ago. The AN/APG-79 AESA radar, the AN/ASQ-228A TFLIR targeting pod, the AN/ALQ-214 Integrated Defensive Electronic Countermeasure System, the AIM-120D AMRAAM with its two-way data link, allowing the launching aircraft to update the missile's targeting picture in flight, even after the launching aircraft has turned cold and broken the engagement radar lock. The AIM-9X Sidewinder Block 2 with its off-bore sight cueing, and beneath all of it, the nervous system connecting every sensor and shooter in the strike group into a single coherent operational picture. The cooperative engagement capability, the Naval Integrated Fire Control Counter-Air Architecture, the ability to have a surface ship launch a missile guided by an aircraft's radar, or have an aircraft prosecute a target first detected by a submarine's acoustic sensors. The U.S. Navy does not fight with ships and aircraft. It fights with a network. The Shandong group was bringing individual weapons to a network fight. By 5:58 a.m., the situation had developed exactly as the TAO had projected. The Shandong group had pushed its course south-southeast and was now 195 nautical miles from the Carl Vinson. The four J-15S were 160 nautical miles north of the Super Hornets. Everyone in the CIC aboard the Carl Vinson was watching. Nobody was alarmed. The captain walked into the CIC, took a look at the tactical display, asked one question about the positioning of the submarines, received a brief answer, and nodded. That was the extent of the American command reaction to a Chinese carrier strike group bearing down on their position with armed aircraft in the air. At 6:04 a.m., the situation changed. The E-2D crew detected a massive electromagnetic spike from the Shandong group. Multiple simultaneous fire control radar illuminations. The electronic signature of a coordinated strike package going active. The Type 055 destroyers lit up their Type 346 BC Eagle AESA radars simultaneously, painting the horizon in multiple frequencies. The J-15S pushed their throttles forward and went feet wet toward the south at Mach 0.9, activating their own radar systems. Two more J-15S were observed launching from the Shandong's deck. And then, 40 seconds after the radar spike, the E-2D crew called it. 4 YJ-12 anti-ship cruise missiles, sea-skimming at low altitude, inbound from the north. The Chinese had fired. The Shandong group had just attacked a United States Navy carrier strike group in international waters. The response was measured in milliseconds. Link 16 propagated the threat data to every ship and aircraft in the U.S. formation simultaneously. Every AESA radar in the strike group that hadn't already been in search mode went active. The Aegis Combat System aboard the Lake Champlain, the most advanced integrated air and missile defense architecture ever deployed at sea, evaluated the 4 inbound YJ-12 missiles, calculated their intercept geometry, assigned kill vehicles from the VLS magazine, and presented targeting solutions to the TAO before any human being in the chain could have consciously processed the radar return. The TAO reviewed the recommendation. He approved. The authorization took him 4 seconds. The VLS hatches on the Lake Champlain opened. 4 SM-2 Block 3B missiles erupted from their cells on columns of white fire, their solid fuel boosters igniting with a force that rattled the ship's superstructure. The SM-2S were in the air, accelerating through Mach 3.5, before the YJ-12S had crossed 40 nautical miles of their inbound track. The Chinese missiles were fast. Mach 3C skimmers, radar-guided, with a terminal infrared seeker for last-ditch evasion of soft-kill countermeasures. They were not going to be sufficient. At 22 nautical miles from the formation, the first SM-2 detonated its 137-pound blast fragmentation warhead within lethal radius of the leading YJ-12. The Chinese missile came apart over the South China Sea in a cloud of burning jet fuel and fragmenting airframe. Second YJ-12, 19 nautical miles out. SM-2 intercept, destroyed. Third YJ-12, the Aegis system had already queued a second SM-2 against it as insurance because that is how the Aegis system thinks, with ruthless mathematical certainty. The third missile never reached 15 nautical miles. The fourth YJ-12 turned hard right in its terminal phase, its seeker trying to defeat the intercept geometry. It didn't matter. The Phalanx CIWS aboard USS Stockdale engaged it at 1.1 nautical miles as a backup measure. The 20mm M61A1 Vulcan cannon fired at 4,500 rounds per minute. The YJ-12 ceased to exist. 4 missiles launched. 4 missiles destroyed. Elapsed time from first detection to last intercept: 6 minutes and 43 seconds. The bounty hunters were already maneuvering. The Super Hornets, running on the data picture fed from the E-2D, had been repositioning since the moment the Chinese radars went active. They needed no order to engage. The rules of engagement were clear: hostile intent followed by hostile act authorized full defensive response. The J-15S had closed to 85 nautical miles. The lead bounty hunter, WSO, had a firing solution on all 6 airborne Chinese aircraft simultaneously. The AESA radar in track while scan mode, the AIM-120D AMRAAMs on the wing stations cooled and ready, the firing queue already prepared. What happened next was not a dogfight. It was not even an engagement in any meaningful traditional sense. The WSO designated the lead J-15 as a target. The AMRAAM left the rail. Then another. Then the wingman in the second Super Hornet fired 2 more. 4 AMRAAMs in the air before the J-15 pilots had even detected the launch. The PL-12 radar warning receivers in the Chinese aircraft began screaming 18 seconds later. By that point, the AMRAAMs were doing Mach 4, and the geometry was already decided. The J-15 pilots did what they were trained to do. They maneuvered. Hard brakes, chaff, flares, notching the radar. The PL-15 missiles on their wing pylons stayed there, unfired, because firing them required a stable radar lock on a target they had never positively acquired in the first place. They were shooting at a ghost that was already behind them in the engagement envelope. 2 J-15S managed to notch their way out of the first AMRAAM shots, and the missiles went pitbull on the available energy before detonating in command destruct. The other 2 AMRAAMs guided true. 2 J-15S were destroyed at 67 nautical miles from the Carl Vinson. The pilots ejected into the warm South China Sea at dawn. The remaining 4 J-15S broke north at full afterburner, shedding their heavy missile payloads into the ocean to gain speed and range. The bounty hunters did not pursue. They didn't need to. The mission was not to destroy every Chinese aircraft in the sky. It was to protect the strike group and to demonstrate with absolute clarity the cost of hostile action. The cost had been made very clear. Back aboard the Shandong, the picture developing on the Type 346B radar displays was catastrophic. The anti-ship missile salvo had been destroyed. 2 fighters were down. The surviving J-15S were running home. The American formation was intact, unhit, and apparently quite unbothered. The carrier group commander now faced a choice that had no good options. He had initiated a strike on a U.S. carrier group in international waters and failed completely. The U.S. had not launched any offensive strike against the Shandong or her escorts. They had defended, neutralized, and demonstrated. Every subsequent move the planned commander made was going to be made in the knowledge that the Americans had defeated his best anti-ship missiles at range and then put 2 of his fighters in the water without losing a single aircraft of their own. He ordered the group to come to a new course, north-northwest, retreat dressed as repositioning. State media would later describe the exercise as a successful demonstration of carrier strike group operational proficiency. There would be no mention of the missiles. There would be no mention of the pilots floating in their survival suits waiting for PLA Navy rescue helicopters. There would be absolutely no mention of the American E-2D Hawkeye that had been watching the entire plan formation for 72 hours before a single shot was fired. One of the Chinese pilots, recovered by a planned frigate 40 minutes after ejecting, reportedly said nothing to the rescue crew. He had seen something that morning that his training had not adequately prepared him for. He had watched a missile he never detected being fired by an aircraft he never found on radar streak through the South China Sea air detonate close enough to his wingman to light up his canopy like daylight. He had performed every maneuver in his repertoire against a targeting system that was already processing his next move before he made it. He had experienced, in the most direct possible way, what it feels like to bring a 1990s combat concept into a 2020s network-centric warfare environment. It feels exactly the way you would expect. Aboard the Carl Vinson, the captain reviewed the engagement summary, initialed the report, and authorized the crew to stand down from general quarters. The air wing recovered the bounty hunters at 7:42 a.m. Both aircraft were back aboard the carrier, refueled and rearmed within 40 minutes. The E-2D returned to its orbit. The Aegis magazines had expended 4 SM-2 missiles. Resupply from the logistics chain would replenish them within 72 hours. The strike group continued its freedom of navigation operation as scheduled. Nobody on the Carl Vinson lost a minute of sleep. The Shandong, the crown jewel of China's carrier aviation ambitions, a ship surrounded by 5 years of CCTV documentaries and carefully staged propaganda photographs designed to project the image of an unstoppable rising naval power, had just been defeated without a single American weapon touching her hull, because she was never going to get close enough for it to matter. That is not a statement about the ship herself. The Shandong is a real aircraft carrier with real weapons and real potential. It is a statement about the system she operates within, the training her crew has received, the sensors she relies upon, and the yawning, fundamental gap between a Navy that has been fighting and learning and integrating for 8 decades and a Navy that has been building ships as fast as it can and calling that readiness. The South China Sea is a long way from Hainan Island. It is even farther, it turns out, from the 24th century of naval warfare where the USS Carl Vinson does its work every single day. Beijing's carrier strike group went home. The United States Navy stayed on station, and the South China Sea remained, as it has always been when American warships choose to sail through it. Open water. Bye for now.